what's up, Growth Day? Hey, it's Brendon Burchard, founder of GrowthDay, and I'm so excited for an incredible session with you here today. Today, I get to kick off this month's Growth Day topic, which is habits that changed my life. And you're gonna get to hear from every single Growth Day teacher and coach this month on this incredibly important and vital topic. You know, we're always trying to improve our lives, but life is hard. Things mess you up, people judge you, finances are hard, and you're always trying to be your best, but sometimes that ain't easy. And so I think developing habits of mind, body, spirit, productivity, service, love can really change your life. And I'll start this morning with a super funny story about just a life-changing habit of mine. You can see I'm in a new space this morning. I'm literally in a shared office right now. And I'll give you a play-by-play of like the last 41 minutes. 41 minutes ago, the power in my studio went out. I'm typing an email to, I think it's about 41 minutes. Yeah, 41 minutes if I'm doing the right math right. And I figure out about that time that, oh wait, no, it's the power to the whole house and my studio. My studio is in like our guest house. And, you know, I've got the broadcast camera you guys have all seen over the years. And, you know, it looks nice setup and everything. I'm typing an email to all the create accounts in Growth Day about another promotion, and also everything goes out. Now I know I got this live with you guys at the top of the hour, and I was like, okay, didn't expect that. Take a few deep breaths out, swear 5 times, stand up, and I go outside looking for what's happening. And like, is there someone out there? They've turned off the power. What's going on across the street? Because there's construction. And I'm looking around, I'm trying, what's happening? Can't figure it out. Go into the house. And like I said, that whole house power seems out. Go to ask Denise, my wife, hey, do you know anything? Is someone doing anything with the house? There's no power. I'm live in like an hour. She's like, no, I don't know. And she'd just been getting out of the shower. She's like, I don't know. So I go blazing outside. I go look across the street. There's construction going on. I pick up the phone, call the project manager over there, and I go, did you guys just shut off the power? Is something going on? And we're doing this landscaping project. So I bolt over to there, ask those guys, are you digging? Are you digging anything? Have you hit power? No. And run back into the house. And Denise is like, hey, I just got a notice from PG&E. Power's out, but doesn't say anything about it. Just says, notice. It's kind of those texts that says, hey, your power might be out. We're like, yeah, we figured it out. So I go, okay. I think, okay, well, what am I going to do? I'm live at the top of the hour. So I thought, okay, well, it'll probably come back on. You know, yeah. Who's had that Zoom moment where your power went out and you just thought it'll come back on? Anyone else who just like, just faith, you're thinking about it. Okay, power's going to come back on. I said, okay, but what if it doesn't? So I start packing up a spare laptop because my other laptop is connected to all the gear, right? Just in case it comes on, I've got that fancy camera and everything. I'm like, I'll hold out. And I run back inside. I said, okay, I'm going to drive into town and get that shared office space that we know about. Hit up my assistant, say, can you book a space for me? I'm going to be going in. And then the project manager from across the street says, hey, it's not us. Got a notice from PG&E. And he sends me this audio that says, there will be no power till 1 o'clock, which I'm on Pacific time. So that's 3 hours away. But I got to be live with you at the top of the hour. So, okay. I listened to the thing. The audio says no power till 1 o'clock. The next text comes in from the project manager. Hey, I'm trying to come over to see if it's anything about your property. because he also worked on our property. I can't get in the gate. We have a gate at the beginning of our property that's powered. And so all of a sudden I realized I can't get in my car and drive down to the shared space because I can't get my car out of our property. The gate don't open. I'm like, oh my God. And this is where that first habit comes in. I take a deep breath anytime there's a huge interruption, and I take it as a personal challenge to be my best. Whatever challenge, whatever frustration, whatever awful is happening, I always take it as a personal challenge. Sometimes that personal challenge is accompanied by frustration, fear, doubt, upset, anger, grief. But the challenge is placed in my head. All right. I go, I'm going to get over that effing gate. I'm going to call me an Uber right now because I can get an Uber maybe pull up. I got 40. At this point, I'm like, I got 40 some minutes. I'm texting my team, telling them what's going on. I might be late. Cue up a couple songs, baby. I don't know what's going to happen. Cue up a couple songs. Throw everything in a backpack. Go jump over the gate. Texting with everybody about what's happening in case I miss. And, waiting on the Uber. Texting everybody, hop in the Uber. I'm immediately changing in the back of the Uber because I'm not wearing these clothes before our live cast, people. It's not like I wake up and I wear this shirt every day. Okay. So I got to throw the shirt on. So I'm changing the back of the Uber. The Uber guys, I'm like, how many naked people have you seen back here? He's cracking up. Right? And I'm focusing on my breathing. And when I say I take it as a personal challenge to be my best, what that always means is how am I going to get through this? What are the next steps? And how do I manage my emotions? And it's all about that. Okay. Next steps, manage these emotions. Next steps, manage the emotions. Breathe. And I want to tell you, again, it doesn't mean I'm not frustrated or I'm not upset. It's just it's a centering around the belief I will get through this. I will figure something out. And also, in a challenge to do my personal best, there's no attachment to the outcome. Here's what I mean by that. Okay, I'm in the Uber, I'm changing. I'm asking him to floor it. We're weaving through the streets. We pull up over here. I bolt out. I run into the place. I go, I'm Brendon Burchard. Do you have a room for me? They're like, oh, yeah. So we run back over here. We set up, if you could see it, on the way over, he sets me up, tells me what the Wi-Fi is. I go out into the shared spaces and they have these, well, I got one extra one here because it's too big. I don't know what you call these things. Can y'all see what this thing is? I don't know what you call this thing. It's, you put magazines in it, I think. And they were on the shelves out there in the shared space. So I went and stole 3 of them. And that's what's elevating my laptop right now for a good angle. Grab those, throw them under the laptop, text my team, I'm here, I'm setting up. I run back out there, I get a napkin to wipe off all the sweat on my face from running and jumping the fence. And I put I have these in my little bag, these little oil control hoonannies. I don't know what you call these things, I'm sure. Oh, oil control film. Take this, get on the team 1 minute before we go live. I'm here. How does it look? And we're here, ladies and gentlemen. We made it happen. It's happening. It's happening. And here's the deal. If I didn't get here on time and you were all here and I wasn't here and the team had to announce in the chat, sorry, technical issue, Brendon couldn't make it. Tried, we'll reschedule, I would have had 0 attachment to that outcome. Even if I was sprinting down the corridor and I got into the shared space and we logged on and the Wi-Fi was terrible and you couldn't see me and I had to call it a day, 0 attachment to it. It's not, does it go perfectly? The habit that changed my life was when I am interrupted, when something doesn't go well, I go, okay, gonna get through this. What are the next steps? Manage your emotion, kids. Don't be attached to the outcome. Do your best is one of the things my dad taught me. And I'll talk a lot about my mom and my dad and lessons I learned in my life today. Do your best, but don't be attached to the outcome. Who's launched or promoted something in your business this year and it didn't go well? See, I don't get discouraged with that. My question is, did I do my best? See, when I don't get the sales, when, not enough people show up, when I don't do a good job in a conversation with somebody that's an important conversation, the question is, did I have the intention to do well? Did I challenge myself to show up the best that I could through that, even if the emotions were volatile, right? Like I said, I'm not trying to be Mr. Amazing here. I'm hopping that fence with my backpack this morning, swearing. I'm like, I can't believe I got to hop over this fence right now, but I'm hopping over the fence. I don't bemoan the fact that I have to do it. I don't get, angry at other people. It's just happening. And I'm saying, how do I get through it? How do I do my best? What are the steps? Breathe, handle the emotions, handle the emotions, handle the emotions. Because if you're unattached to the outcome and you're just challenging yourself to be in flow, in process, you have an extraordinary quality of life. You're way less thrown off. And most importantly, you're way less discouraged. Even if it's a hot mess along the way, even if you struggle to manage the emotion, I'll get through this. What are my next steps? Manage the emotions. Don't be attached to the outcome. Do your absolute best, though. Do your absolute best. So I say that because I think this morning's hilarious. And we're here, ladies and gentlemen. I can see your beautiful faces, everybody. I really appreciate you, Ruby and Cyril and Joanna and Dave and Bryce and Alicia and Lisa and Lindsay. And I know we all did our work to get here today. I see Sarah in her backyard doing her personal development right now. Right? I see some of you in closets and bedrooms and bathrooms and cafes watching right now. I imagine many of you walking around right now, but we're doing our personal development today. We showed up to make self-improvement a way of life. This is a win, ladies and gentlemen. This is a win for all of you. It's a win. It's a win. You showed up to do the work. That's what matters. And so I think I just was going through and Sarah, who I can't see her right now, but who arranges all of this for all of us each week and does such a great job with our team to pull these off. She's saying in text, she's like, my palms are sweating for you as you're going through all this, and it's just but I'm also like, okay, we'll get through this. I really want you to adopt this idea. And I hope you've taken some notes because I'm not just telling a funny story that happened this morning. This is a habit that changed my life. Earlier in my life, when something interrupted my life, I felt that it was almost a learned helplessness situation. So Dr. Marty Seligman's famous work on learned helplessness, I thought the problem was personal. When I was younger, it's against me. Why me? Why do I have to go through this? No one else has to go through this. It's directed at me. My bad luck. My unfortunate, reality. I thought the problem was, pervasive. The problem meaning it will always be here. This is terrible. This is tragic. I shall never overcome. When I was younger, I thought that those problems were permanent. This is going to leave a lasting mark. This will ruin me forever, right? There'll always be repercussions of bad performance. There'll always be consequences of us not being our best. But will it ruin you forever? No, it might make a tough month, right? It might be a tough quarter. You'll pull through. What are you talking about? Ruin you forever. It's one of our primary human fears is that we'll be ruined. I used to think that, in high school, this embarrassment will ruin me. In college, this bad grade will ruin me. When I screwed up in my first jobs in corporate America and was embarrassed because I did something bad, this will ruin me. Nothing can ruin you except your own attitude. Can I get an amen on a weekday, ladies and gentlemen? The only thing that's going to ruin you is a bad attitude. Please. You ain't going to be ruined by some objective thing. You get divorced. It's not going to ruin you. You near bankruptcy or get in bankruptcy. It's not going to ruin you. Somebody leaves you, abandons you, call you something awful. You fall on your face. The first business doesn't work. You get laid off. The medical report comes in and it is not good. These things are not going to ruin you. These things are going to be major obstacles, maybe. These things are going to require you to skill up, to learn, to improve. No doubt on any of those things. But those things don't ruin you forever.
You know when most people evaluate themselves? When they have a performance review coming up at work, when they've really screwed something up and they're guilty and they're thinking of all the other stupid things they've done that hurt them. You know, when they hit a birthday, when they hit New Year's, when someone holds up a mirror in front of them and says, hey, you're being a jerk, and they have to really reevaluate. Most people are not proactively assessing their performance. And so when it comes time to do that, they're disappointed. And so if this is not a basic habit for you, I need you to start scoring yourself at the end of the day. Now, people really don't like this one, and I'm just going to be upfront about that. You probably won't want to do this, and a lot of people don't. But if there's something inside of you that is restless for that next level, we're going to have to start measuring. If you don't measure it, you can't improve it. And the same way that most people, you know, if you ever try to lose weight or gain, you notice, apparently this is weightlifting talk, but if you've ever tried to get stronger, you got to write it down. Like, how many reps did you do? How did you, what routines did you do today? How much weight did you use? Like, if you do that in the gym, well, you got to do that in the playground of life too. But most don't. And they're really struggling. I can't tell you, it's just like painful to watch. I'll show up and I'll tell me about your life. And first, they don't even know where to start because they've never measured themselves. And then second, in the dialogue with me as a high performance coach, I find them disappointed, upset, struggling, unsure of themselves. And a lot of that could have been handled if, on a more consistent basis, they were self-aware and personally accountable to their own behavior and growth. I mean, isn't it true? Don't you know somebody you wish, oh my gosh, I wish that person would stop at the end of the day and say, am I being a good person? I mean, isn't there someone you're so frustrated with right now in life who you would just love to sit them down and say, hey, you need to be more self-aware. You aren't paying attention to who you're being, and it's hurting everybody around you. Jerk. We all have that person we wish they were more self-aware. But how do you get self-awareness? You just go to a meditative retreat once a year? Do you luck out into being a self-aware person? Self-awareness is gained by self-evaluation. If you want to be better, aware of who you are, where you can grow, how you can uniquely give or serve, we need to evaluate yourself. Does this make sense? So what are your habits right now for evaluating yourself? What do they look like? How are you measuring yourself and your progress in life? What are those? If you got some, virtual high five, I could be there with you. Celebrate that. That's awesome, right? That's incredible, because most people don't do that. So I hope that you are doing that, but it's a struggle for a lot of people too. So here's a simple way that you can end your day scoring yourself along the lines of, again, what we're talking about here, productivity specifically. You might have other ways. You might score your personal values. You might score your energy. You might score how much influence you had with other people. I'm going to give you some related to what we talked about, productivity, so we can get some quick wins and gains for you as we jump into more in-depth training. Here's what those are. I would like to ask yourself at the end of the day these specific statements, and then rate yourself. Low, 1 means you suck. Okay? 5 means you're awesome. You're doing a good job, okay? So let's walk through these. Number 1, I worked on things that mattered most today. I know that's basic, so I'll go fast here. Number 2, I progressed a major dream or goal today. Meaning, did you progress today? Number 3, I avoided distractions well today. Number 4, I set intentions before each major activity today. That's a huge one. Number 5, I fully engaged and enjoyed my efforts today, because high performers strive satisfied. They're engaged. And in that engagement, they find joy and they find fulfillment, satisfaction, confidence. It's by engaging. So how did you do today? Did you enjoy your efforts or not? Now remember, low, 1, 1, 1, 1, high, 5, 5, 5. Where are you here? So every day, I sit myself down and I started scoring myself. This is probably about 7 years ago. And remember, 7 years ago, I was still then a certified high performance coach. 7 years ago, I was like, my career was just taking off. And what we want to believe is that people just kind of bumble into progress. People bumble into momentum. I'm telling you, high performers are more strategic and they're more self-evaluative. Now, many of them, this was a unconscious competence for them. They really didn't know that their self-talk was so oriented towards self-evaluation until I did some coaching and interviewing with them to discern that. But it turns out high performers, they're measuring stuff. Now, I just want to make it easier for you. So here's a simple tool. Just write those things down, then score yourself. Now, when you score yourself, at the end of the day, add your score up. So let's say your 3s all the way down. That'd be 3, 6, 9, 12, 15. Montana kid doing math. And it was right. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So let's say you're 15. So you add your score up, that'd be 15. Then multiply it by 4. 15 times 4 is 60. That will give you a score of 100%. Okay? Whatever your score is, keep seeking clarity each day, and you'll get better and better and better. Try to improve this each day. Look, there's going to be days you're a 2, other days you're a 5, but the goal is to ask yourself this. Like, I want you to do something, and if this sounds too basic, here's what I want you to do, and add to your routine that maybe you already have. Maybe you end your day with journaling. Congratulations, not enough. Okay? Instead, what I want you to do is create your own scoring mechanism for the end of the day, whether it's taking a page out of my playbook here, or you're scoring yourself, right? If I ask you, how'd you do today? And you go, good, that's one level of self-evaluation. But if I say, how did you do today? And I give you a specific context. How did you do today in keeping to your own agenda? That you might say, good, or pretty well. But if I say, how did you do today in keeping to your own agenda on a scale of 1 to 10? 1, you sucked and got pulled into everybody else's agenda. You got totally distracted. You didn't get anything done you wanted to. 10, you were superbly excellent today. You stayed on point. It's different quality, isn't it? When you got to rate yourself and you're like, I was a 6. And then my next question to you goes, well, why were you a 6 versus say a 10? Then you can go, oh, well, because I made these decisions, or I allowed that, or this person did this. Okay, great, okay. Well, what would it take to go from a 6 to a 10? Well, I would have had to have done this, or next time I would do this, right? As soon as you score yourself, you have an anchor or a benchmark from which to move yourself and a different level of self-evaluation. So what could you, I know I'm talking along about this, there's one reason. I'm trying to get you in your own unconscious mind right now to be generating a lot of ways you could score yourself. Because for me, there's 50 different things I score myself on at the end of the day. 50. Now, here's the thing. I don't let my low numbers bum me out. Because the truth is, you know what? Measuring myself across 50 things every day, it's not like I'm a robot. I'm like, it's not like I'm perfect in every one of those areas. But here's what happens. Let me tell you this. This is a huge insight, so please write this down. If you're not scoring yourself consistently, that's why you feel so out of balance. If you're not scoring yourself consistently, that's why you feel yourself so out of balance. It's why, one day you realize you've been working so hard, but you neglected the kids. Why? Did you neglect the kids because you're a bad person or a bad parent? No, it's because you didn't have the quality of your experience with them on a radar, on a dashboard, on a sheet at the end of each day or maybe each week. And so what happens is, life takes hold of us. We get caught in the stream of life and we're just kind of getting carried along. And then one day we wake up and we realize, wait, I've gone down 7 different, river channels that I didn't anticipate, right? And so the only way to keep us there is to evaluate. And I think if you can do that, things significantly shift. So I hope that you'll figure out what is your end of day scoring. I'm sure while I've been talking, you've been thinking of other things. You could score your energy. You could score how you treated your wife or your kids or your team. You could score how much you stayed focused. You could score how well you actually made sales, or how well you dealt with clients, or how well you built your business. I don't know what it is for you. But if you don't know what it is for you, and if you aren't scoring, I know the next level is right there for you. It's right there. So put this in play.
This is going to be one of those sessions where you go, got it. That the reason we do personal development, it's ultimately all about new ways of accessing self-awareness, isn't it? That when we hear new ideas in personal development, maybe just a slight change in how we think about something or how we think about ourselves, life can change. Just one little subtle shift in how we think about a topic, in how we approach something in our life. Those subtle shifts can make a big difference. And this topic today is that. We're talking about setting boundaries. I'm going to talk about how to think about this topic of boundaries. So we're going to be talking about on boundaries all day long. And I think you're going to be really amazed in the simple hour of how much you're going to cover and learn today in your own self-awareness in a way you probably haven't thought about boundaries before. Because what most people do when I say, the topic of setting boundaries, they immediately think of like, I need to set boundaries with my family. I need to set boundaries with this jerk in my life. I need to set boundaries with, by the way, we'll talk about those things, but I'm going to elevate the conversation for you. If you'll forgive me, go a little more advanced on this topic, because I think that's the power of Growth Day. It's not only just hearing the common sense things, but maybe hearing a little more advanced approach to these topics. And I think that is the promise of today. So thank you for being here. Let's do some personal development work. We're talking about boundaries today. And here's how I'm going to start with this. The most important boundaries you're ever going to set in your life are with yourself and what is acceptable with who you are, what is acceptable in how you conduct yourself. A boundary between the good self and the not so good self. A boundary between the higher level of who you are versus the lower impulses. A boundary in your own sense of what is right and wrong and what you allow yourself. In other words, we're going to go into the conversation of standards that we allow in ourselves and in our lives. And I think when you think about a boundary, not just something between you and another person, but in your own mindset about what is allowed or not allowed, I think this could be a game-changing conversation today. And I'm going to jump right into it because I don't want to speak conceptually for you here. So let me talk about some important boundaries in your life. I'll talk about 3 huge internal boundaries. Then we'll talk about the standards that we allow in our life that may be really hurting us or accelerating us. First one, I think you guys are going to love this. So you can grab a screen grab. I wish I was prettier with my fancy camera, but here we go. I think you're going to like this one. The boundary of the fake self versus the real self. Take that screen grab. You got to get this. See, this boundary and what you allow here and how you conduct yourself here, it matters, doesn't it? When I talk about setting boundaries, very few people ever think about this one. Because when we talk about setting boundaries, we often feel victim to something. We feel like, oh, well, someone's encroaching on my boundaries. We'll talk about that. But this is the one that causes the real damage. When we blur the lines between who we authentically really are and how we are showing up to please or placate others, to minimize ourselves. That's the boundary. How much do you cross this boundary? You want to talk about the quality of your life?
How much do you cross this boundary right here? Think about this. How often do you cross this boundary? That can be the game changer in your life today. When you become aware of these two selves that we all have, the authentic, the authentic, the real, the vibrant self versus the face, the facade, the person we try to be for others, it's not really us. When we step outside of ourselves into a persona of somebody else to please others, to fit in, to belong, to get love, this is the ultimate boundary that breaks our own integrity. This is the boundary that makes us miserable. And you have to decide at some point in your personal development that you don't cross this boundary as much anymore. And at some day, not at all. And that is the ultimate work of personal development, isn't it? How easy it is to glide into conformity, to go from who we really are to suddenly acting out of character. I really believe breaking this boundary leads to most of the long-term miseries in our life. Let me say it again. Breaking this boundary leads to most of the long-term miseries in our life. When we aren't honest about our real thoughts, feelings, desires, dreams, hopes, aspirations, and instead we show up just to please others and to fit in, we minimize ourselves. We enlarge the falsehoods in our life. And see, there is this thing of a boundary, right? There's a boundary between true and false, fake and real, authentic and inauthentic. I know we all might use different languages. I'm very aware that this is an international audience. I just think you've got to figure that out and get highly attuned to when that is happening. When people talk about mindfulness, they're often talking about, ooh, look at the flowers over there. Let me notice the sensations in my body. When they talk about mindfulness, they often think of, let me just drink in this moment. But the most critical and important part of mindfulness is to know who you are and who you are being in any given moment. Because I know a lot of people, they can appreciate the flowers all day long, but they're miserable because they're not being themselves. Listen, write this down. Boundaries are all about identity. Boundaries. The most important boundary you will ever set in your life is, who are you? What's in that circle of who you are? And what's outside of that? Who are you? Who are you not? In other words, just bringing back my little picture here, the fake self versus the real self. That's the ultimate boundary, to be mindful of when I cross that. Oh, it's so important. I know a lot of you out there, you're influencers, you're creators, you're leaders, you're caregivers, you know, and you can recognize how often you have to step into a role maybe you don't want to be in, or maybe you're in a situation where you have to hold back a little of your own truth for decorum. You have to put on a shiny face and not freak out on your child. You have to calm yourself down because you want to scream at somebody. That's self-regulation. That's okay. That's allowed. We have to do those things. What we are talking about is an enduring sense, an enduring recognition or mindfulness of how often we are crossing these boundaries. This is a conversation of frequency, isn't it? Because sometimes we have to do a certain behavior that's appropriate. We're going to talk about that later. Right now, I want to shift your whole brain. Oh my God, setting boundaries in my life is all about, who am I? Who am I really? And am I showing up as that consistently, with intention, with joy, with flow? That is the thing we are actually talking about, not just boundaries about, what you'll allow on your plate from others. It's about who you are. The more often you break this boundary, the more miserable you are. I really want you to capture that. I know you're coming like, geez, Brendon, thanks for the personal development today. Can we get some dancing bears and balloons? Make this a little more entertaining, dude. This is a little hard, but this is why you might be miserable. And I don't say that in any judgmental way. I've been there and I've coached thousands of people through this. We got to get you more on this side. We've got to be aware when we break a boundary, who we are not. Very key. You want to change your life, you also become vitally aware of this other internal boundary. And this is this one. Your old self versus your new self. You got to know what happens is you have these patterns or these habits, these ways of thinking that were shaped by others. You have this old identity and you have the new you, who you are today as a conscious, intentional, living adult, right? This is when you drop into your childhood fears and concerns. And this is when you are in the moment as an authentic, conscious adult, right? I know not everyone loves this language, but I think it's important. And I've had to say this, listen, just for context, I know so many people are new into GrowthDay here, but I've been coaching people one-on-one for 16 years of my life, 16 years. I've worked with people from all walks of life, 100+ countries. I've had the blessing of so many millions of people going through our programs and getting immediate feedback, but also I do this one-on-one with people for 16 years. And sometimes as a high performance coach, I have to push a little bit. I always say I'm paid to push. I have to sometimes jar people or help them see themselves or recognize something. And so I know not everyone will like this language that I'll use, but sometimes I'll say with a client directly to them, I say, is that the high school self or is that you as a leader? And what I'm helping them recognize is this versus this. There is an old part of you or old set of patterns or habits or beliefs that you have to be aware that might not serve you, and they cannot break the boundary into the now. Who knows what I'm talking about? Anyone? Does this resonate with anyone? I see. Okay, good. You got to know when that boundary is broken. Oh, my high school self just walked up into this room and smacked everybody in the face. You got to know. You got to know when you lose it. You got to know when that childish, smaller, older, less competent, less secure you shows up in the moment, breaks the boundaries of time. The time zone boundary just got broke, right? Time zones are a boundary of time, aren't they? That's what a time zone is. It's a boundary of time. And sometimes we allow that boundary to be broke with old thoughts, old beliefs, old insecurities, old selves that do not belong in this moment. And so I know not everyone likes it when I call you or call a client high school, because that's not really that kind, because I knew a lot of kids in high school who were wise and centered and incredibly remarkable and spontaneous and creative and giving. That wasn't me, just letting you. I just want to let you know, people. Okay. So when I say it, what I mean is that childish, dramatic, overly selfish, repugnant, like little high school kid that got all worked up and angry and had no emotional regulation, no connection with intention and vision. So maybe it's not appropriate to say that. I'm trying to give it to you as a metaphor, though. Is there, and that's why I like this language, is there an old you that shows up once in a while and breaks the boundary into the now? If so, when does that happen? let me share with you one of the most important concepts in setting boundaries is to recognize when that happens. Same thing with this one. When do these breaks happen? What's the pattern there? Is it when you're under pressure? Is it when you're feeling defensive? Is it when someone judges you? Is it when someone doesn't comply? Is it when they insult you? Is it when you fail? Is it when you're feeling discouraged? Right? We all know this. It happens in our lives, right? Imagine the truth of how many of you have ever been on a diet or a new health program and you're like, I'm building a new self. I'm going to get pretty. I'm going to get, in better shape. I'm going to do all these things. And then you have a bad day and you're 3 seasons into some Netflix show and you've murdered like 17 bags of chips and popcorn and 2 bottles of wine. You're like, oh my God. Well, something happened to make you break that boundary of the new self and the old self, isn't it? An old pattern of conditioning came back in and you went to a creature comfort versus a higher intention. You went to a creature comfort instead of a higher intention. You knocked out that conscious, willing, forward-looking part of you, and you went into coping zone, and you might have went into an old coping zone. I got to know my old coping zones versus my new coping zones. The way I used to cope might not be appropriate in this relationship, in this career, in this role, with this person. Are you guys geeking about this? I love personal development for this conversation. It's a new way of looking at things sometime and go, oh, yeah, man, I never thought about a boundary as something internally that I'm breaking between old self and new self, fake self and real self, and dialing when that happens. This is why I really want to encourage every single one of you. Please, please, please make sure you're going into your GrowthDay app and using the journal to capture what's going on in each of your days, to capture your feelings, to capture when you break a boundary, to capture how you wish you would have shown up, led, performed, interacted, or communicated. Your journal is the most important part of GrowthDay in my perspective, because the break that you might be getting here, you get that every day when you reflect about yourself and you see, when did that happen? When did I go backwards? When did I break the time zone here of old self, new self? What caused me to cope that old way versus this way? It's in thinking about it that we discover ourselves. It's in self-reflection that we discover our future self. It's in self-reflection that we discover our future self. This is the power of journaling. People always ask me, Brendon, what do leaders actually do? Maybe you're leading a team, or you're in charge of a large organization, or you're just trying to even lead your own life. I mean, what is it that leaders actually do? Many of you know this was my graduate school work. In 2001, I wrote a book called The Student Leadership Guide, and I never had any clue that thing would blow up the way that it has. And this framework for leadership, it's called E6, is from that book, and it's been used at, I think, 40 of the top 100 schools in the world. Major corporations from around the world, major associations have called me in to speak on this topic because it's a great framework for leadership. It answers that question. What are the major practices of leadership that we must enact on a continual basis to be able to have the amount of influence and impact we desire in our work lives or in any role in which we're leading other people? So let's get right into it. The first E of these 6 E's is envision. Great leaders envision a compelling and different and vibrant future than what is here. They have an alternative, clear view of what the world could be like tomorrow than it is today, right? They have a shared purpose that they believe that they and others would be compelled by, interested in, inspired by, and want to work towards. And that's a big deal. And you always read about it in leadership, right? You have to have vision. I mean, it's biblical. Where there is no vision, people perish, right? We know the power of having that vision. So you have to sit down, though, and actually do it. The reason we say envision versus just have a vision is you have to sit, it's a practice of envisioning. What should tomorrow look like for my team? What should tomorrow be like for my business, for my organization? What should tomorrow be like for my life? And not just tomorrow, a long-term mindset and view. The dream, right? That magnificent obsession, that bold desire, the moonshot goals and purposes and missions of life, the bigger picture. That's envisioning a different reality in the future than we experience today. And that's what everybody gets excited about in leadership. Where there's no vision, there's no leadership. Where there's no vision, people perish. So you have to envision. And I say that these are 6 practices of leadership and not 6 steps, because it's not like you do envisioning once and then you move on in the process. We always have to continually sit down and envision, where are we? Where can we be going? It's an active process. If you set a vision one time and you forget about it, it's not gonna help you accomplish the influence or the impact you want in your lifetime or in those that you lead. The second E here is enlist. As you're developing this vision, it's not just your vision, you're enlisting other people to share their voices, their perspectives, their dreams, their desires for where you could be going. You know, I think that the most important leadership lesson in the world is that people support what they create. If people are involved in the ideation of a vision, they're involved in creating ideas, of brainstorming, of figuring out what is it we are about, what do we stand for, where are we going. Great leaders enlist that from other people. They're constantly asking people what they think, how they feel, what things they desire and need. And it's that enlistment that is always going on. A great leader is always enlisting other people to believe in the dream, to shape the dream, to stay dedicated to the dream. It's an honest and an authentic and a genuine desire to see other people be involved in the process and to enjoy that process. I mean, it's so vital. And that methodology of how do you get people involved in it? You're asking questions. You're paying attention to their needs. You're reflecting back to things that you're hearing. You're always enlisting others to support and to build this vision, this ideal future together. And the third thing that great leaders are always doing is embodying their message. They stand for something. There's a congruence between who they are, the behaviors that they're enacting into the world, how they treat people, what they're working towards, and what they say is important, right? It's just basic line, it's integrity. You know, it's a congruence between what we say we're after and how we are behaving. And there's nothing more important, is there? You know, it's that old message, it's like, you don't believe the message unless you believe the messenger. So as leaders, we have to stand for and demonstrate and show and portray what we are really believing in. I mean, is our team and the people around us seeing us work for it, sweat for it, sacrifice for it, champion it over and over and over again, even when it's hard, even when there's conflict, even when people are pissed, even when people want to quit? Are you still there? Do you still stand for it? If you do, you become a legend. Fourth, what we have to move on to is now empowering people. Empowerment means we give people the decision-making authority and the trust to be able to work towards this vision, to allow them the autonomy, the strength, the input, to equip them with the knowledge, the skills, the abilities, the technologies, the tools, the training, to allow them to succeed as they march with us to achieving something extraordinary and phenomenal. That's vital. That's what empowerment is about. And a lot of leaders who come in with a big vision, they get everyone excited, you know, they seem like they want everybody involved, and they do a great job of standing for it, but they don't equip their teams to kick some butt. They never get to that place of real stride, of real momentum. And that happens all the time. Training other people and equipping them with everything they need to succeed has to be a vital practice of every great leader. And again, it doesn't happen just once. That's a huge failure in the working world, especially in corporate America. Great leaders come in, they nail the vision, they get people around it, they stand for something. but they only empower people at the beginning. They give some training and then they just disappear. Training has to be consistent, coaching has to be consistent, equipping people to deal with the new challenges, the new tools, the new technologies, the new competitive realities. That's vital. We have to have that in place, right? So we've been doing this practice. We envision a better future. We enlist other people to help shape that vision, to believe in that vision, to support that vision. We stand for something by embodying our own message. We empower other people to be able to support and to be able to win. Then we have to evaluate. So the hardest things that we do in all of leadership, to evaluate the key people who are with us, their contributions, evaluate their skills, evaluate their needs, and to evaluate the ethics that are going on in our organization, in our team. Are we being excellent and are we being ethical? Is the questions that we're evaluating on, right? Are we being excellent and ethical as we are progressing? Which I guess would be the third question. Are we progressing? If not, why? Are we being ethical? If not, why? If our people are not being excellent, if not, why? These are the questions that we have to ask as this practice. And evaluation, it's like every day as a leader. You know, you've got to keep your thumb on the pulse to see, hey, how are we doing? Are we alive? Are we moving forward? That evaluation also brings up the incredible challenge that we face as leaders, which is to give honest, direct, immediate, constructive feedback to those people who we're trying to influence and lead. You know, to our collaborators, to our friends, to our followers, whatever word that you use for them. I mean, it's vital. It's vital that we are paying attention and seeing when things are going off the rails. You know, that we never check out. I mean, it's a consistent process of checking in and seeing how we're doing and paying attention to really evaluating the progress of our mission. And that final thing, that sixth thing, that thing that makes the magic, encourage. You know, to encourage, to be the champion, to be the cheerleader, to be the person always motivating, inspiring, uplifting people, to never just have, you know, a lot of leaders, they get their pet projects and they get excited about it and they disappear. No, man, you need to encourage on a continual basis. You need to light people up. You need to have it in your heart and in your soul, that desire to want to lift people up, you know, to lift them up and lift them off their butts, to get them excited about things, you know? If you can't motivate them with your passion and your example, then what are we doing? You have to encourage people when this gets hard. You know, when you're working towards a mission, it gets hard. Longer term, the more people involved, the bigger the organization, the bigger the vision, the bigger the dream, the longer the duration to accomplish it, the more struggle, the more challenge, the more conflict, the more discord, the more disappointment, the more frustration, the more doubt, the more delay. All those things happen. Leaders have to deal with them. And the way they have to deal with it is always being that encouraging voice. When the chips are down, when it looks most bleak, you're still that beam of light. And when it gets dark, when it gets challenging, when there's conflict and turmoil and turbulent seas, you're solid. You're somebody that they know they can go to because you're always going to turn a negative into a positive. You're always going to help them see the alternative view, the next step. You're going to champion people. You're going to champion the mission and the cause. That's leadership. That's the 6 E's of leadership. Envision, enlist, embody, empower, evaluate, and encourage. And I'll say what overlays all this is a philosophy about what we're doing, that it's important to us, that there's a purpose, there's a mission to it, that we feel that deeply within us is so powerful. And we honor, we respect, and we love those we work with. Last thought, you know, I never use the word, I try to, maybe I use it in this video a little bit to give us context, but I try never to use the word follower. You know, people aren't following you, they're actively engaged. They are collaborators. When you get people to collaborate with you in all areas of these 6 E's, you're building leaders, you're building collaborators within the organization, within the team, with those who you are serving, a magic happens. It's not just you, the leader, it's a group of us. We are a peer set of leaders. We are the movers and shakers who are shaping and making this mission happen every single day. We love to work together, we have fun, people are standing up. They now are helping come up with vision. They now are championing and cheering on, bringing in, enlisting other people. They now are they're standing for something. They're living that value and the truth. They now are empowering other people and championing the cause. They're your eyes and your ears evaluating how the organization, how the mission is going. they now are encouraging it so it doesn't just ride on your shoulders. When we do that right, then we have this thing called leadership. You know, we're gonna have some fun today. We're gonna talk about your confidence. And I'm really excited to break down a framework for you. And I hope in doing this, help you realize where some of those dark days come from, where you lose faith in yourself. Where those dark days come from when you know you have a lot to do, but you just don't feel like you can figure it out. Where that, you know, when you get to go out in the world again, or when you're on a Zoom and you got to show yourself to the world and you feel awkward or weird or insecure, that you tap back into that authentic strength, that truth of who you are. And that as you go through your life, you feel confident that no matter what life is going to throw at you, you're going to learn, you're going to figure it out, you're going to develop your capabilities. And many of you are going through really hard times right now. Sometimes it's just hard to even be positive. You can be so consumed and so overwhelmed by the negativity of other things out there. You just go, oh my gosh, this is just hard to feel good, let alone confident. I'm going to break down a framework that I hope some of you are familiar with, but today we're going to talk about it with a different lens of how to overcome insecurities and what specific daily and monthly habits you might set up for yourself to feel more strong. So this is a piece of paper. It's a framework for confidence that I have on a board in my office. See, we need reminders. We are visual humans. We need to look at something to remind ourselves of something. And so, you see, I have this, I'll share this with you in a minute, but I want to get the practice in your mind. The practice in your mind is you should have instructions to yourself on a wall somewhere. So you're like, if you walked into my office and say, Brendon, why do you have a framework for confidence on your wall over there? And I go, well, because sometimes I don't feel confident. And what do we do when we don't feel something? Well, when we don't feel something that we want to feel, we tend to feel not good because we're like, I don't feel this, so I feel bad about myself. Or we tend to distract ourselves. I don't like this feeling, so I don't know what to do, so let me just scroll through the internet. So to me, what I've done is I've got a board over here, and there's my framework for happiness. Do you have a framework for happiness on your wall yet? So that when you don't feel happy, you go, I don't feel happy. What's going on with me? And you can just go look at it and go, I've got my checklist for happiness right there. I forgot point number 3. No wonder I'm not happy. What I'm trying to suggest to you is maybe you give yourself a checklist, a framework, a set of instructions for the feelings that you really want to experience in life. And when you're not feeling it, instead of retreating into the comforts of distraction, you go back to your instructions. You know what makes you feel good. And it's time to write that down and look at it more consistently. Here we go. This is my confidence checklist. This is my framework for confidence. I'm going to break down each of these areas. And even if you've seen this maybe before with me, what I'd love to do is break down where these grow into trouble, where these are developed and strengthened, where these can be applied in your life financially, in your life, in your marriage, or your relationship with your partner, with the kids. So I'm going to break down each of those things, each of those areas. I'll use a card here for you. We're going to start with that very first card here, clarity. Human beings are a goal-directed species. If we don't have clarity on what we want, if we don't have clarity on who we are, if we don't have clarity on what our intentions are in social relationships, it's unnerving to us. Well, if you ever felt lost in life, you know that feeling. It's coming from a lack, often of clarity. We'll talk about this. You just don't know who you are, what you're about, what you want anymore. And it's unsettling when you lack clarity. It's really unsettling. You're like, I don't know what I'm about anymore. And this is where midlife crises come in. Clarity is something it's like knowledge or a goal or an aim, but it's loosely held. What I mean by that is like, okay, that's important to me, but I can be flexible and adaptive as well. It's not this idea that you have total 100% complete certainty and you're total certain all the time. It's like that is a adolescent dream. No, there is no absolute certainty in anything in life, right? And so we have to go, oh, okay, I can have clear direction, or I can be strongly committed to this thing. But lots of people who are absolutely certain about something shifts months later. So here's my question for you. On a scale of 1 to 10, in the last 60 days, how clear have you been about what you wanted in life? Did you start the day with some clarity about how you wanted to live that day, show up that day, treat other people that day, serve that day? So let's think about where sometimes you feel insecure. You're going to go to that party or that networking function. You feel insecure about yourself. Why? Because in your mind, the insecurity in that moment, in that situation of the networking situation or the party is coming from, I don't know who I am in here. I don't know these people and who I'm supposed to be with them. I don't know where to go or where to stand or who to talk to. And so it's unnerving. The insecurity is, I don't know what to do in this situation. Now that type of confidence, or lack thereof, is something that psychologists call self-efficacy. Self-efficacy is about, I don't know what to do in this situation. That's where the insecurity comes from. Positive self-efficacy means I believe that I know what to do in this situation. I can handle this. Even if I don't know how yet, I believe I can handle this. I have the competence to take this on, as an example. That's positive. But a lot of things in life you don't know how to deal with. You don't have self-efficacy because you don't know how to handle it yet. This is a new party. You don't know anybody in it. It's a new networking event. You've never met any of these people. How do you get more confidence in that? Well, one simple thing you can do is start with clarity. Like, okay, I'm going to go talk to people. What's something I'd love to share about myself with every new person I meet? Oh, okay, lock that in. Okay, got it. What's one question I could ask every new person I meet? Okay, let me lock that in. Okay, just those two things have been found to dramatically increase people's sense of confidence in social situations. I know what I'm going to share about myself. I have clarity on it. I know what I'm going to ask them. I have clarity on it. Just those two simple things. The problem with clarity is it's a double-edged sword. A lot of people, their clarity is, I'm awful. I'm worthless. I'm no good. And they've stacked up all these experiences to strengthen that belief. And their clarity is, well, I'm a jerk. I don't deserve success. I won't have success. They've got clarity, but they got the wrong kind of clarity. See, confidence requires positive clarity, not negative self-defeating clarity. So clarity is a double-edged sword. If you believe the wrong thing about yourself, that's going to hurt you too. So what's the opposite of that? Well, I'm going to start viewing myself positively. How can we do that? Well, you know what? Maybe each day for the next 10 days, I'm going to write down a strength that I have. Write down 10 positive things about yourself every day for the next 10 days. Watch what happens for you. It starts shifting your perception of yourself. Here, my little framework, we're going to go from clarity now to congruence. Congruence is living in alignment with what you know is the best of you. Living in alignment with the best of who you are. Living in alignment with your values. When you are not congruent, your brain logs that. And what it says in that log entry, not living your word, not living your truth, not doing what you said you would do. And too many of those negative withdrawals sucks away your confidence. But here's what you need. To be congruent, what do you need? Clarity. You say, okay, these are my values. These are my beliefs. This is what I think is important as a human being, as a parent, as a caregiver, as a leader. Congruence measures whether or not you're doing what you said you're going to do. And that's important. So here's the simplest fix. If you've been pulling too many withdrawals out of that bank account, it's time to put some back in. And so today might be the day you go, where have I been incongruent? Where do I say something and I don't do it? Where are you out of congruence? And can you do the simple acts? Sometimes when you're out of congruence, first you just apologize to yourself. You say, you know what? Gosh, Brendon, I haven't been honest with myself. Let's make a change. I think the fastest path back into congruence is an apology. An apology to yourself, an apology to other persons. It takes a lot of guts to say you are wrong. It takes a lot of guts to acknowledge you could do better. This one's fundamental. You get to decide today what to be congruent with. You get to decide who you are, and you get to decide to show up and live into that. Third big idea, competence. Right? Competence, it's a collection of knowledge, skill, talents, and abilities. The good news is you can increase this. So here's what I want you to do. Every day, I want you to have clarity on what skills you are working on in your life. That's how we're going to get competence. Competence for too many people comes 2 years too late. Why? Because they wait too long to start developing a skill. Every day, I'm very clear about what I'm trying to improve. Every day I'm learning something, but I'm learning not just casually or passively. I'm trying to get better at this thing. I want you all to have an ambition to have 1 or 2 or 3 skill sets that you're literally world-class in, that you're world-class in. Not because you need the ego that I am world-class. No. Because you need the challenge. You know why a lot of people lack confidence? They never engage challenge. You want more confidence? Engage in challenge more often. The more challenge you engage in and you incrementally improve in it, the more your brain goes, yep, there I did it again. And what happens when you don't have confidence, you don't engage in challenge. When you don't engage in challenge, you don't get more competence. So you don't get that competence, confidence loop we were talking about, the flywheel. You all follow? So for those of you, if you're like, but I just lack confidence, like challenge yourself more. But you're like, but I'm lacking confidence. I'm like, exactly. See, it doesn't, you're going, well, I'll get confidence, then I'll do the challenging things. I'm like, the other way around. You want more confidence, do challenging things more often. When you do challenging things more often, you learn. When you learn, confidence. Connection. When you don't have a connection with yourself or others, confidence goes down. So you want to feel more confident in life? Reconnect with yourself and others. With yourself, that's your morning routine. Lock in that morning routine. The more you feel connected to self, the more confident you are. But you need the time to connect to yourself, away from the email, the social media, the obligations for the kids, the family, the husbands, the spouses, the team, everything else. You need that moment where you're like out and connecting with yourself, with your thoughts. You need time to think and to feel again. So turn off the TV, go for the walk. Put down the phone, do the meditation. Get away from the social thing 10 minutes earlier so you can sit in the car and just think before you go home. You need more space to be thinking and connecting with self. So build that in your life, self-connection. Second part, the most important part, we know environment dramatically shapes your confidence, the connection you have with the people around you. This means be around positive people, contribute around positive people, learn from positive people. It means create great relationships in your life. I want you all to improve this one. Simple action, simple daily, weekly, real life action. You must start sharing your real thoughts, feelings, desires, and goals with the people around you. You got to do it more often. Here's where you lack confidence in life. When you won't share your truth because you're worried what everyone else thinks. That's what high schoolers do. You don't do that anymore. You're too damn old. Now you share your truth with other people and realize most of them won't get it, won't understand why it's important, won't support you, won't care, or at least won't get in your way and say anything at all. But the less you speak your truth to other people, the more superficial your connections are with them. Number 5 is capability. Competence is the knowing, the knowledge, skill, talent, ability. Capability is you can do it every time. It is like a strength, if you will. It is something that is, you are highly capable at that thing. You are at another level of skill that it shows up every single time. But here's the truth. Capability is as much as a mindset as a competence. Let me give you an example. A lot of extremely smart people who can handle the problem don't handle the problem because they don't feel capable. It's like, yeah, I know it, but I don't do it. See, there's a difference between knowledge and execution, which is often the difference between competence and capability. See, competence is like the foundation and a stored value, but it's expressed through execution, capability. You want to develop capability? It means you get in the mix, you do the work, you show up, you try. Capability means I know I will execute. That's what, to me, confident capability is. I know I will execute. How do you do that? You have to be more consistent in your execution. You need to be way more consistent in your execution. We talked about decision earlier. Decision is great. Action is required. We've got to get you to execute more of those to-do lists. You want more success, you want more joy, you want more confidence, you got to execute more of the plans. Capability is self-trust to take the action. It's not just, do I know how to take the action? It's, I'm an action taker. I'm going to show up. I'm capable to handle this. I will do this. I trust in myself to handle this, to execute again and again and again and again and again. That's capability. And I really want you to develop that in your heart and in your soul by checking off the simplest of things each day. If you have a list of 3 to-do lists, if you wrote down your 3 top priorities for the day, do those first. Before you do your social media, before you reply to everyone's DMs, inbox, voice message, text. It's like, listen, I have so many people who they spend all day just checking their email to reply to everybody else. Now that's fine if that's your job. If that's customer service, do that. That's your job. But if you're an entrepreneur, as an example, or you have a whole list of other priorities and you're just checking into other people's agendas all day to meet all their obligations, and you keep missing your key priorities day after day after day after day, your brain doesn't feel like you're capable anymore. Even though you might be smart, you're competent, but your brain doesn't believe you're capable. Last big idea today, contribution. You want confidence? Give more. You want confidence? Make your difference. You want confidence? Do things that matter. Why? Because A, those things are celebrated in the world. Generous, giving people tend to have greater what? Connections with other people. Generous, giving, caring, hardworking people tend to have what? More clarity about who they are. They're more congruent. These things, they feel more capable. Like generosity, doing things that matter, giving strengthens the whole rest of the model. The whole model drives itself when you've got each of these pieces running, right? Each of these pieces touches one another. Contribution's a key. It really is. Sometimes when you feel so bad about yourself, you're not going to shake yourself out of that. But what can shake yourself out of that is service. Sometimes you got to get out of your own head. And to me, what has created a great confidence and reverence for life in my life has been, I've been volunteering most of my life. When you're a volunteer, when you show up for others, when you volunteer to help out, whether it's as simple as helping a friend move or going down to the local soup kitchen or volunteering for that nonprofit cause that you like or running that fundraiser even though you don't know how, those contributions make a difference. Maybe your contribution is your art. Maybe your contribution is your time. Maybe your contribution is financial. Maybe your contribution is mentorship. Maybe your contribution is your content or your book or your work, whatever that is. If you can do the same thing where you can give generously to it, give to your work, be generous to that contribution, be in the moment when you're serving someone who is in need, you get a little more spirit inside. And when that spirit of goodness is inside, you can share it more too. This can be your day for personal growth. This can be that day you committed to and you remember and you go, that was the day I got myself a community. I got better coaches. I committed to making my life the absolute best that I could. This is that day. Make today your growth day. Click the button on this page and sign up right now.